What's going on today, YouTube? Rob here. In today's video, we're finishing off the Yugi's Legendary deck box. We have done his Battle City deck, we've also done his Exodia deck, and now we're doing the final deck, which is his Gadget slash Toy Soldier deck. This deck was pretty cool, and I enjoy it. It's very fun to play in a casual setting, and I just think it's a really neat deck to end off the original series. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and also consider leaving a like and commenting on what you might want to see next. Now, without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into our last deck of the Yugi Legendary Decks box. First up, we have the Magician of Black Chaos, which can be ritual summoned using Black Magic Ritual. Next up, we have the Dark Magician of Chaos. During the end phase, if this card was normal or special summoned this turn, you can target one spell card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dark Magician of Chaos once per turn, and if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, banish that opponent's monster. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. Next up, we have the one copy of Dark Magician. Just a vanilla monster for the deck. Next up, we have Dark Magician Girl. This card gains 300 attack for every Dark Magician or Magician of Black Chaos in either player's graveyard. Next up, we have Gandura, the Dragon of Destruction. This card cannot be special summoned, and you pay half your life points to destroy as many cards on the field as possible, other than this card, and if you do, banish them. This card gains 300 attack for each card destroyed this way. And during the end phase of the turn this card was summoned, send it to the graveyard. Next up, we have Silent Swordsman, level 3. Negate your opponent's spell effects that target this card. And during your standby phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard and special summon one Silent Swordsman level 5 from your hand or deck. You cannot activate this effect the turn that this card is summoned or flipped face up. Next up, we have Silent Magician level 4. Each time your opponent draws a card or cards, place one spell counter on this card, maximum of 5. This card gains 500 attack for each spell counter on it. During the standby phase of your next turn, after the 5th spell counter is placed on this card, you can send this face-up card with 5 spell counters on it to the graveyard and special summon one Silent Magician level 8 from your hand or deck. Next up, we have our Silent Swordsman level 5. This card is unaffected by your opponent's spell effects, and during your next standby phase, after this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by direct attack, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard and special summon one Silent Swordsman level 7 from your hand or deck. Next up, we have the one copy of Silent Swordsman level 7. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by Silent Swordsman level 5, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. You also get to negate all spell effects on the field. Next up, we have Silent Magician level 8. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by the effect of Silent Magician level 4, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card is unaffected by your opponent's spell effects. Next up, we have Buster Blader. This card gains 500 attack for each Dragon-type monster your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. Next up, we have the Tricky. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding one card. Next up, we have Kings, Queens, and Jack's Knight. Queen and Jack's Knight don't have any effects, they're just vanilla monsters. While King's Knight has the effect, when this card is normal summoned while you control Queen's Knight, you can special summon one Jack's Knight from your deck. Next up, we have Yellow Gadget, Red Gadget, and Green Gadget. So when any of these cards are normal or special summoned, you can add one of the corresponding gadgets from your deck to your hand. Yellow lets you add green, red lets you add yellow, and green lets you add red. Next up, we have Skilled White and Skilled Dark Magicians. So Skilled White's effect reads as follows. Each time a spell card is activated, place one spell counter on this card, and when that spell card resolves, when that spell resolves, and then you contribute this card with 3 spell counters on it and special summon one Buster Blader directly from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And Skilled Dark effect reads, each time a spell card is activated, place one spell counter on this card. When that spell resolves, maximum 3. You contribute this card with 3 spell counters and special summon one Dark Magician from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Next up, we have one copy of Block Man. You contribute this card and special summon in defense position a number of block tokens, rock type, earth, level 4, attack 1000, defense 1500, equal to the number of your turns that this card has been face up on your side of the field, and these tokens cannot declare an attack. Next up, we have Marshmallon. After damage calculation, if this card was attacked and was face down at the start of the damage step, the attacking player takes 1000 damage. This card can also not be destroyed by battle. And lastly, for our monsters, we have one copy of Karibo. During your opponent's turn at damage calculation, you can discard this card, and you take no battle damage from that battle, and this is treated as a quick effect. Starting off our spells, we have one copy of Gold Sarcophagus. This lets you banish one card from your deck face up, and during your second standby phase after this card's activation, add this card to your hand. Next up, we have Monster Reborn, which lets you target one monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it. Then we have Swords of Revealing Light, which allows you to flip all monsters that your opponent controls face up, and this card remains on the field for 3 of your opponent's turns. While this card is face up on the field, monsters your opponent controls cannot declare an attack. Next, we have Card of Sanctity, which banishes all other cards that you control and in your hand, minimum 1 from each, and you draw until you have 2 cards in hand. Next up, we have Polymerization, which lets you fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or side of the field as fusion materials. Next on our lineup of spells, we have Dark Magic Attack, which if you control Dark Magician, lets you destroy all spells and traps that your opponent controls. Next, continuing with our spells, we have Magician's Unite. If you control 2 or more attack position spellcaster type monsters, target one of them, and its attack becomes 3000 until the end of this turn. But other spellcaster type monsters you control cannot attack this turn. Next up, we have Dedication Through Light and Darkness. This lets you tribute one Dark Magician and special summon a Dark Magician of Chaos from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And next up we have Black Magic Ritual, which lets you ritual summon your Magician of Black Chaos by attributing monsters from your hand or field whose total level equals 8 or more. Next we have Tricky Spell 4, which lets you send one face-up Tricky that you control to the graveyard, and special summon Tricky tokens that are Spellcaster Wind level 5 with 2000 attack and 1200 defense, in defense position equal to the number of monsters your opponent controls. Tricky tokens cannot declare an attack. Next we have Emblem of Dragon Destroyer, which lets you add one Buster Blader from deck or graveyard to the hand. Lastly, for our spells, we have one copy of Marshmallon Glasses, which, while Marshmallon is in your monster zone, your opponent cannot target monsters other than Marshmallon for attacks. Moving on to our lineup of traps, we're starting off with Mirror Force, which, when your opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy all attack position monsters they control. Then we have one copy of Magician's Circle. When a spellcaster type monster declares an attack, each player special summons one spellcaster type monster with 2000 or less attack from their deck in attack position. Next we have Shattered Axe. Activate this card by targeting one face-up monster on the field. During each of your standby phases, it loses 500 attack. And when that target is destroyed, destroy this card. Next up, we have Stronghold, the Moving Fortress. This is a trap monster, so this gets special summoned in defense position as an effect monster, Machine Earth level 4, attack 0, defense 2000. This card is also still a trap, and while you control green, red, and yellow gadgets, this card gains 3000 attack. And lastly, for our traps, we have one copy of Miracle Restoring. This lets you remove 2 spell counters from your side of the field, then target one Dark Magician or Buster Blader in your graveyard and special summon that target. So that's it for our main deck. Moving on to our one card extra deck, we have Dark Paladin. So this requires your Dark Magician and Buster Blader. Also must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. During each player's turn, when a spell card is activated, you can discard one card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. This card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. This card also gains 500 attack for each Dragon-type monster on the field or in either player's graveyard. And that's it for our Yugi deck and the third deck of our Yugi's Legendary Decks box. Alright guys, that's it for this deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment on what you might want to see next, and if you're not already, consider subscribing for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos and helping me reach my goal of 100 subs. As always, I will see you in the next one. That's game.